Tēnā koe te whare, tēnā koutou te whānau o te paramara. Kia ora mai tātou, tēnā tātou katoa. Members, the sitting is resumed. The House is in committee for the estimates debate, and we are currently debating the votes in the external sector volume. The question is that the vote Customs, vote Defence Force, vote Foreign Affairs and Trade and vote Official Development Assistance stand part of the schedules. The Honourable Phil Goff has the call, with 1 minute remaining if he so wishes. Karanga aho, the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I rise to take a call in respect of the trade estimates. There are two issues that I want to address. The first is in respect of the sheep saga, which was traversed a little at the Select Committee, and as members who were there will know, the National Party members did their best to stop us inquiring into that. They gave the Minister, the Honourable Murray McCulley, the opportunity to explain things from his perspective and try to cover his tracks, and then stopped us properly inquiring into it, which is part of the orchestrated cover-up that we've got from the government in respect of the Saudi sheep saga. Even now we have we and just about every media organisation in New Zealand have outstanding Official Information Act requests that have been routinely ignored in breach of the Act by all of the ministries, by NZTE, by MFAT themselves, by Ministry of Primary Ministries, by MB and by the Treasury. And they've all got to the end of the statutory period, and then they've all claimed they need more time, and then Treasury had the audacity to say that they were going to have a proactive release sometime in the distant future. Mr Speaker, at the heart of this is the fact that the government has been caught acting unscrupulously. They have not only wasted more than $6 million on a farm in the desert, where most of the lambs died, and where the Minister of Agriculture, Nathan Guy, said that he thought it might have been because of a sandstorm, which was rather ironic, given that the farm advisors say it was more likely to have been a rain event, which was itself ironic given that the sheep are under shelter. Mr Speaker, that waste of $6 million is less unprincipled than the $4 million facilitation payment that the government paid unnecessarily to settle what they say was some threatened legal claim, which we now know was never threatened, and there was never any legal advice that we've been able to see that said there was any legal risk to be settled. A facilitation payment paid to the Al Khalaf Group, $4 million upfront payment that was hidden for a number of years and still has not been properly explained by Mr McCulley. As if that wasn't bad enough, we've also had the South Korean Free Trade Agreement, which makes some important advances in terms of tariff reductions for New Zealand and therefore is good for our traders. But again, we had to drag out from the government and from officials the truth that the South Korean Free Trade Agreement contains a limitation on a future government extending the sorts of categories of investment that are screened for, i.e. you can screen for existing categories of investment like farms, but you cannot add a new category of screening like banning the purchase of houses. It's almost unbelievable that the government could be so inept as to get this wrong in respect of the South Korean Free Trade Agreement, because the recent South Korean Free Trade Agreement with Australia permits just that, the banning of the sale of houses to South Koreans. So why this government was so negligent as to trade the sovereignty of a future government being able to do that, I do not know. Mr Speaker, as if that wasn't bad enough, we've then had denial after denial in this House where the Minister of Trade has refused to answer questions as to whether the same mistake is made in the TPP, insulted the intelligence of this House by refusing to answer questions when exactly the same questions are answered on The Nation and Q&A at the weekend by Minister Grosser and then the Prime Minister in Q&A on Sunday. It's a disgraceful thing. You know, lots of my forebears came to New Zealand to escape absentee landlords, and yet that's what this government's allowing to happen in New Zealand. the richest 1% in the world from overseas countries who want to put their money beyond the reach of their authorities or spread their investments, or they think that New Zealand's a safe place to put their money, they can outbid New Zealanders, they can push up house prices, and they can exclude New Zealanders from owning one house in their own country. Mr. Speaker, we've had a documentary in Australia of the problems they're having in respect of farmland purchases at the moment, another area where this government allows overly permissive rules. They pretended after the Shanghai-Pengjing transaction that they were tightening the rules, and then they sent a side letter to the Overseas Investment Office saying to look felicitously or to approve applications for up to 10 times the size of the average farm unit. What a fraud.